New tonight, gun violence and its impact on schools is driving a new effort by high school students in Oak Ridge. Earlier this year, a shooting in Parkland, Florida killed 17 people. 17 others were hurt. The website gunviolence.org recorded 293 mass shootings so far in 2018. Now, the Oak Ridge School Board of Education recently approved the student group Wildcats for Change. They're devoted to stopping gun violence, and 10 News reporter Sean Franklin joins us to explain those plans. Sean?
John, Lauren Schenk and Abigail Duke received the torch from outgoing seniors this past year. They're aiming to raise awareness about gun violence, and it all started with a big rally last spring in honor of the Parkland shooting victims.
It was really moving, to be honest.
It was a pretty big torch to pass.
I think seeing some of the seniors take a stand on that issue was really inspirational.
But Oak Ridge High juniors Lauren Schenk and Abigail Duke were ready. Last spring, nearly 200 students came out for a rally in honor of Parkland shooting victims.
And it was started by a senior who graduated last year. And so she reached out to us, and so then she was like, I want to start a group where this continues. I don't want it to just be a one-time thing where we just did the rally. We want more things to happen.
The newest leaders of Wildcats for Change are keeping the nonpartisan anti-gun violence and political student club moving forward. Monday night, the Oak Ridge Board of Education officially approved the group so they can start meeting.
So if you have a passion for anything that has anything to do with politics, you're welcome to come and just talk.
They'll meet each week to encourage learning about politics through guest speakers and having discussions on political topics.
The people who are being affected by the school shootings are largely the children who are in those schools, and I think they need to be asked, because they have ideas about what should happen, and I think that's important, and their ideas should be respected and they should be listened to.
Those voices want to join Stoneman Douglas High School students who spoke against gun violence after the shooting.
People were targeting them for what they said, but I think it was amazing to see their strength and for them sticking by what they believe in. And I hope we can bring that spirit to this group and to Oak Ridge to help better our community.
Board of Education Chairman Keith Philhour says a lot of times students wait on the teacher or an adult to move forward on an idea, but he's proud that in this situation, that clearly wasn't the case. Robin, John.
They showed initiative. Sean, thank you.